I do like the patriotic music. It's fitting for today. And really every day, because we're Americans every day, aren't we? Gotcha.
Mic check 1 2 3 4. Good morning, everybody.
1 2 3 4 5 5.
Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us on After GMS 7:45 on Tuesday. You know what day it is. It's Election Day,
Yeah.
November 3rd.
And I bet that music, before After GMS got you into the mood, made me want to march to the polls.
Absolutely.
Very patriotic.
Why not? So there is a lot of enthusiasm about the election. We've seen record early voting. We're expecting record turnout at the polls today, but we have to have a good forecast to go along with that. So our meteorologists are here, and nothing really preventing us from voting today.
Yeah, not at all. The weather is looking absolutely beautiful out there. It's a little chilly early this morning. We're in the 30s and 40s right now, but we'll warm up into the lower 60s this afternoon. Sunshine all day long, and temperatures continue to go up from there as we head through the rest of the week. We will keep our eye on the weekend for rain chances, but for now, we'll keep that rain chance at right around 20%. But getting back to today, it looks good not only across our region, but really across the lower 48. We're not looking at any major weather systems across a good chunk of the United States from sea to shining sea.
All right, I like that, Taran. That was a nice transition into this. The polls now open. If you plan to cast your vote today, make sure you go to your assigned voting place. Now, keep in mind, some of them have changed because of COVID-19 I was going to say guidelines, but really there are some cases. So some of those polling locations had to be moved or changed. So check first. You don't need photo ID, but you will need to wear a mask.
And the board says the busiest times are usually early in the morning and just before the polls close. You can avoid those long lines by voting at off-peak times, and the polls will close tonight at 7:30. But if you're standing in line by that time, you still will be able to vote.
All right, some good reminders here as we head into, I would think, the busiest time for voting this morning, as we already saw a line at one polling location where our Candace Red was. We'll check in with her in just a few minutes, but we know it's going to be a busy day at the polls, and it caps off a very busy election season full of ads and text messages and mailers. I mean, we've seen pretty much everything, right? So we wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I asked you on my Facebook page how you're feeling about Election Day finally being here. And the responses were kind of funny, but also very honest. So Monique says, super nervous. Anxiety is on 110%. Lynn says, it is in God's hands, just like everything else. Rhonda chipped in and said, ready for it to be over and for the ads to stop. And Lisa says she is remaining in prayer today. That's actually something that our meteorologist Ed Matthews posted on his Facebook page yesterday was, to pray for our country as we head into today. And I know that's something you do often, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter to me who you vote for. That's your prerogative. But I think everybody should get out and vote. Just think of all the people around the world that do not have the privilege of voting. And I think about that every election season, the people around the world that don't have that privilege. So do get out and vote. Your vote does count.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I think we can all agree on. It's not necessarily who you're voting for, but the fact that you exercise a right to run.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You have that right to vote, and if you are eligible, you need to go ahead and do that and let your voice be heard. I will say this though, it is my first time living in a swing state, and the amount of stuff that's been in my mailbox over the past month, man, I'm ready to be able to sift through my mail without having to throw away 6 or 7 pounds worth of paper or recycle, one of the two, every time I check my mail. So I think I'm with a lot of people are with me with looking forward to whatever the results are, at least knowing and putting this election behind us.
Yeah, I think the text messages, my phone has just been going off even more so yesterday than it has in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
So many text messages. And actually, George Spicer, he weighed in on our stream and said that he is ready for this. He's ecstatic. No more text and emails. And I totally agree with him. Now, I know a lot of people have talked about a lot of election stress and anxiety, but doctors are prepared for, they say, an uptick in calls this week because of the election. But their advice is, if your chosen candidate does not win, that you can grieve the loss. It is okay and acceptable to do that. They advise to stay off of social media because, of course, that will just fuel, the emotions even more so. And honestly, if it gets to a point where you're just so stressed out or upset about it, don't feel bad about reaching out to someone to talk about it. This is a big decision. It decides our future. And so just keep those pointers in mind from doctors.
Yeah, and your decision isn't everybody else's decision.
Exactly.
So, we are in a democracy, and democracy wins, right? And whoever is the winner, that's just how it goes, right? So not everybody agrees with me, of course, on that, but that's how I feel. Carol says she is ready for it to be over. George Spicer said, yes, I forgot you said this, I'm ecstatic, no more text and emails. We also heard from Dana, who said, glad it's here, but nervous for the outcome. And then Bobby Odom says he's anxious. So, and Shakila said she just has crying tears. For emojis. So, I mean, I think this has just been overwhelming. I mean, we've been talking about this since the primaries. Remember those? Yeah, back in March.
When was that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we weren't in lockdown mode yet. So the pandemic was not as talked about. It was a priority, but not necessarily something that we knew a lot about. And now it's here. And so I think that may have had some impact on the last 10 months. We're tired of the pandemic. We're tired of the elections. It's 2020. So today we'll have some answers. Well, maybe not today.
Maybe not. But I think that you can just, at this point, you did your part. You went to vote. You cast your ballot. And now it's just kind of up to see what happens. So it's, you just can't stress too much about it, because whatever happens will happen. I like what Ed said, and what, one of our viewers said, that you just got to give it up to God. And I truly believe that in this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the results and when they come in, because I think that goes along with the stress conversation that you're talking about. So we'll have that in just a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, if you do go vote today, the process will be different due to the coronavirus pandemic. And WFMY News 2's Candace Red breaks down what you can expect.
Your normal polling place will be open, except for a very few number of exceptions. The polls open at 6:30 in the morning and close at 7:30. This is not at 7:30 p.m. and this is not like early voting where you can go anywhere you want. You do have to go to your assigned polling place. You're going to go up to the check-in officials and they're going to ask you for your name and where you live. And then you'll sign some documentation. You're going to get your election souvenir pen that you get to keep through the entire process. You're then going to take that and go over to a table where you're going to get your ballot. They will hand you an actual paper ballot. And then you're going to take that paper ballot, take it to a booth, bubble in the ovals for the candidates you want to choose. Then you're going to walk it into the big ballot tabulator. And you're going to insert your ballot where it's going to read your ballot. It's going to say thank you for voting. It's going to drop into the locked bin and you're done. They can do curbside voting. Curbside will allow them to vote from their car and we can bring a ballot out. Those are people that, due to age or physical disability, cannot enter the polling place. They'll sign an affidavit that says that, and we'll start the curbside ballot process. We're going to promote social distancing. Our workers are going to be wearing masks with face shields, gloves. Voters are encouraged to wear masks, and if they don't have one, we'll have plenty of available. And we're going to be sanitizing surfaces. Every surface that a voter encounters, we're going to be sanitizing. We really don't know. We've had so many vote early, more than we've ever had vote early before. We've had so many vote by mail, really more than we've ever had before. We'll have over 50,000 people vote by mail. I don't know what election day is going to look like. When we go into election day, we'll be close to what we had done in all of 2016. Votes do matter. We're putting a ton of resources. We're working so hard as a staff and with all our precinct officials to do this, and we do it because it matters. We just had 25 early voting sites open for 17 days. We've invested a lot in making it so voters can vote by mail. Election day is the final cap on this. There is a lot riding on this election.
All right, so there you have some kind of Q&A from Charlie Collicutt with the Guilford County Board of Elections, answering some of the probably most popular questions during this election season, especially during the pandemic, about curbside voting, mail-in ballots. All of those have been big topics. So now that it's here, once polling places close, election officials are going to, of course, get busy counting and tabulating all the results.
And like we mentioned earlier, this year things could take longer because of all those mail-in ballots, but it will vary state by state. Here in North Carolina, as soon as polls close, all the early voting and absentee ballots will be released. That's because in our state, officials are allowed to count ahead of Election Day. The Board of Elections says they expect to count at least 97% of the votes tonight. So it will just depend on how close the races are and if they can be called. Now, if it's a close race, we'll have to wait for all the absentee ballots that can be mailed today to arrive and then be counted. We know it could take longer in other states like Pennsylvania, where election officials are just now getting to count those mail-in votes. And then, of course, it depends on how late the polls close, depending on the time zone. So here are some other times that other key battleground states will close their polls. Arizona's polls close at 9 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time. They have 11 electoral votes. Ohio has 18 electoral votes. Their polls close at 7:30. Georgia closes down at 7 with 16 votes, and Florida has 29 electoral votes. They close at 7 as well.
Yeah, missing from that list is all-important Pennsylvania, where a lot of attention is not only this morning, but has been for about a month now, because it is a true decider in who wins the presidential race this year, which is why the candidates keep bouncing back and forth there. Their polls close around the 7:30 mark too, but they've had so many legal challenges with their mail-in ballots and, you know, when they can start counting and when they can make sure all the ballots come in. So that is definitely going to be a race to watch, a state to watch, and particularly partly because that's the state that we'll be waiting on before we can make that national announcement about who is the next president of the United States, or perhaps who gets 4 more years. So this is going to be the race of note this election season. North Carolina is a battleground state, and it matters. And there's so many different tracks that, you know, the candidates can go. But Pennsylvania, I think, is the one that everybody is like, well, which way will it go?
Right.
You know.
And then something else to know, I mean, Arizona, their polls won't close until 9 o'clock Eastern Time. That's pretty late. So really, we don't know when we'll find out all this stuff. I'm just interested to see what's going to happen, and I'm going to try to stay up as late as I can, but with our schedule, of course, it's kind of difficult to do so. But of course, we have our team here tonight that's going to take care of it and keep you updated. But Trey, it's been really interesting to see, you know, how just a few key states could really put this election one way or the other.
Yeah, the analytical part of my brain does enjoy trying to figure out that part and how they do the modeling of what states might be what they call the tipping point state. What state would be the state that more likely than not would be the one that puts one of the candidates over the top. So that's interesting to me, but also looking at the different paths to 270 that the different candidates can take. I know in elections past, I would sit there with a little interactive electoral map and just kind of color it in and try to figure out, okay, well, if this person wins this, then they would have to get this one and this one, but it's not looking good for them there. So if they don't win that, then maybe they can get this or that. But you know, we'll kind of see how things work out. But you know, it really does look like you know, Pennsylvania would probably be one to watch. But if there's a surprise in the Southeast, then that could move things in one direction or the other. So we'll see how things shake out. But really quickly to Stacy's point, you know, this is another stressor within a very stressful year for most folks. And if you do need to get help, no matter what direction the race goes, don't be afraid to seek professional help. You know, I'll admit I go to therapy, you know, and it's helped me through some situations. So, you know, definitely encourage you to do that if you need be. Don't be afraid to seek help. Okay, that's it. I'll move on now.
We love your PSAs, Taran. They are important information. So, Ed, we know that, you know, Taran is a count by numbers type of guy, you know, paint by numbers, I should say.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the maps, or are you just kind of focused on North Carolina?
Well, I focused on North Carolina, but really focused on all the states. And to Taran's point, you know, with swing states being involved, that's the reason every vote counts. I don't want to hear this business about, oh, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. So-and-so's going to win anyway, so I'll just stay at home. That's nonsense. And it's just downright stupid, okay? You got the privilege, you got the right to vote. Get out and exercise your choice and your right to vote. And regardless of whoever wins any of the races, whether they be local or national, part of my praying, and I've done a lot of it, folks, I really have, I am praying that this nation comes together, that we come together as one nation under God as Americans. We're all Americans.
I think that's one of the reasons why we are seeing this record turnout, not only for early voting, but the expectation at the polls today. And that's why I don't really think about polling. You know, if you trust the polling all the time, then you would think, oh, so-and-so has this in the bag, but you don't know that until the votes are counted. So, you know, if you are watching polls and you're like, you know, whatever, blah, 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 my vote doesn't count. Well, you know, you might be wrong this year. Every vote is a deciding factor. So there were some interesting comments, and I got a chuckle from Jason Hutchins, who said, this election is going to be like Hanukkah with 8 crazy nights waiting to see who wins. I'm hoping it's not 8 nights, but it's possible.
And then George said, if you don't vote, don't complain about the outcome. I think a lot of people say that. But, you know, it's not just about, I think all of us stay focused sometimes on the presidential race, which of course is very important. But there are a lot of other races that are happening tonight. I mean, take the North Carolina Senate for one, our governor's race. There are a lot of issues too. I mean, we have the GCS issue on the ballot, talking about Guilford County schools there and wanting to fix some of their schools. So there's a lot at stake, not just the presidential race this time around.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that you all know this, that we do have our teams out spanning across the state, you know, getting those reactions from the politicians, win or lose. Here's our team coverage here. You can see it as a full box of people making sure we have complete coverage. But we are not going to call a race until it is for sure. We will not say anything early because it doesn't make sense to do that. We want to make sure that we give you fair, accurate, and truthful information so that you can go to bed, you know, and wake up the next morning knowing that whatever you went to bed on is the same thing in the morning. So don't expect us to call anything too early. It's just not going to happen. So we want to make sure you know that you can trust us. We're going to bring you that coverage in an honest and respectful way. And we just hope that, you know, the nation responds in that way as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are stressed and a little anxious about tonight, but one thing that you cannot be stressed about is this weather. I mean, if you don't like the cold weather, you may be a little stressed about that, but it's really
Yeah.
just going to be beautiful for election night.
Yeah, come on into my no stress zone here. How about that? I like it. Hey, folks, get out and vote. Can't blame it on the weather this time. Not only is our weather great, but really much of the nation is seeing a dry and very quiet weather pattern, and that is good news for you having the opportunity to get out and vote and the weather not being a factor. Here locally, plenty of sunshine, many communities in the Piedmont going down to around freezing earlier this morning, but temperatures are slowly working up. We're on our way to the low 60s. We'll be up around 62, 63 today. And then tonight under a clear sky, we'll drop back into the 30s, but likely mid and upper 30s tonight. A little frost on the pumpkin tomorrow morning. And then on Wednesday, we're in the mid 60s. And yeah, we continue that little warm up by Thursday and Friday, upper 60s, a few extra clouds by the weekend, maybe a shower. We're going to be watching that possibility, a low chance right now, and we could crack 70 by Saturday.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, it'd be
70
great.
degrees? I thought we were done with those.
No. I remember 70-degree days, having grown up in this area. Oh, in January, February,
Oh, yeah.
low and mid 70s. It happens because we have weird weather, don't we?
North Carolina.
Yeah, Taran and I know about the weird weather here.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to
Oh
learn.
man, don't we? Oh,
Oh no,
give me a headache thinking
No
about it.
headaches. This is
no stress today.
yes.
Woosah.
There you go. There you go.
All right, so I was joking around with Jason Hutchins earlier about, this being like Christmas for journalists, Election Day. We are amped up, we're excited, this is the day that we wait for to, see how, all of our hard work for the year kind of pays off. So, we're ready. We're going to be working all through the day and all through the night. So we don't know that anything is going to be called tonight, so it is so important that you join us tomorrow on the Good Morning Show. We expect that we'll have a better idea, a better picture of the voting map and the elections, the polling as they close. So that is going to be crucial. If you want to know who won the next, president of the United States or any of the races in our state, tune in to us tomorrow on the Good Morning Show.
Yeah, we're going to have that full coverage. Many of us staying overnight tonight. Of course, we're going to go home today for a little bit, but tonight coming back and staying overnight to make sure that we get those results in for you guys and just keep you updated on everything you need to know. Of course, our team, like we mentioned, will have full coverage tonight as well. So stay tuned. And if you haven't voted, get out and vote today. You don't have an excuse unless you're not registered.
All right, thanks so much for joining us here on the After Good Morning Show on After GMS. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and exercise your right. We'll see you at the polls. Take
Have
care.
a good day.